Hi, this is Bill Cecil, and welcome to episode number 10 of my podcast series, Best You Ever or Bust. This is the podcast series designed to help you and other teachers make every year in the classroom the best year ever by helping to make it your students' best year ever, despite any and all challenges that get in your way and try to stop you. Right? A best year ever mindset is a mindset that says, hey, I'm on a mission and I'm not going to let anything get in my way. I'm going to make it happen no matter what. And that's one of the many reasons why I believe you and other teachers like you with a similar mindset and grit to make it happen. That's why I believe you're heroes. Truly. And I'm not being flip when I say that. Think about it. You are making a difference every day in the classroom if you go in with that attitude that I'm not going to let anything hold me back from giving my best to help my students give their best. You are a hero because that takes a lot of work to be able to do that for an entire school year. So I applaud you for that. And don't forget that, man. That's big. You are a hero and you're making a difference every day. And if this is your first time listening, welcome aboard. I hope you'll go back and listen to the other 9 episodes so you just kind of get up to speed. But welcome aboard, and I hope you enjoy this. Also, I want to thank all of you for taking time to go out and reach out to other educators or teachers that you think could use this to help keep them uplifted, motivated, and empowered all year to reach this goal, to make it their best year ever by helping their students make it their best year ever. And so I hope you'll share that out. And if you are, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That means so much to me. So today, in episode number 10, I want to share the second word in the 3-word doable plan that you'll give your students. That will, it will help them work with you and their classmates to make it the best year ever, which is your team's mission and goal. And then B, more importantly, by helping your students master this powerful 3-word doable plan, you'll set them up for success every year in school and throughout their entire lives moving forward. I think that's pretty cool. So if you remember in episode number 9, I explained how I would start off each school year by offering my students a chance to have their best day ever. Come in. I wanted to get them just to kind of relax, to breathe, because once you start breathing, you can take things in more and just learn more. And so that was the first thing, just to get them to kind of start focusing on, okay, it's going to be a good day. I'm going to get through this day. This sounds pretty cool. It sounds doable. And then I would start to get them to think about the chance to have their best year ever and what all that would mean, right? And so we talked about all those targets, but it would be a year they would never forget. It'd be a year that maybe if they struggled in the past, this would be the year they wouldn't struggle. They'd start to believe in themselves. And so it'd just be a year they might make a lot of friends, things like that. We talked about all those. And then just as I would get them to really start getting excited about that, I would throw in a curveball at them a little bit. I'd switch it up a little bit and say, but there's a catch. Right? And just what I talked about in episode number 9. There's a catch. And the catch is there's one thing you have to do for me. You have to be able to learn and master 3 words on a consistent basis throughout the year. And then I would share those 3 words eventually and say attendance, attitude, effort. And last week I talked about the importance of attendance. You have no chance to succeed if you don't show up on a regular basis, right? So in this episode, I want to talk about a really important word, attitude. Attitude is so important. In fact, it's so important that I'm going to break this episode up into 2 episodes because there's 2 parts to attitude. So I thought I'd start talking about the first part. The one thing I want to focus on today is that I want to get your kids to come in every day, number 1, looking for things to get excited and happy about. You think about how important that is. When I was a kid and I struggled in school, I went into school every day already not looking forward to the day. Now think about how that has an influence on me. If I'm going in already with that attitude, that makes the teacher's job a lot harder to get to me and to reach to me. And so the first thing I talk about with my students is about attitude is that I want them to start thinking about the importance of coming in every day to create that habit of coming in every day looking for things to get excited and happy about, because if they do that, they're actually going to start finding things to get excited and happy about, and that's going to really affect their learning that day in a positive way. It's going to have a positive effect on them, right? And so that's the first thing I talk to them about when I start to share that with them. And what I say to them is that there's a quote in the room, if you'll notice in the back of the room, I had a big poster set up, and on that poster it said, "The way you choose to see the world creates the world you see." It's such a powerful quote. This quote basically means that you tend to see, or you tend to attract, or you tend to get more of what you focus on, or what you think about, or what you do, right? And so what I want to do is I want to share a few examples that I would share with my students with you to help make this clear and hope to show you how powerful that this is, okay? So, for example, the first story I want to focus on with you is what I call the yellow kayak syndrome story. So, many years ago, and this is the story I tell my students, true story. Many years ago, my wife and I, if you remember one of the past episodes, I talked about going up north. Even though I already live in Michigan, we would go up north to our cottage on the weekends. We had just gotten a cottage, and we wanted to get a kayak that we could go out around the lake in when we weren't using our boat. And so either one of us could stay home, with the dog and watch the dog, where the other one wanted to go out in the kayak and just maybe kayak around the lake and see the lake in a different perspective and get some exercise. So we needed to buy a kayak. Now, I've never bought a kayak, but that's easy enough. You go to a sports store, you find a big, in our case, it was a yellow kayak, and it was long and it was on sale, perfect for me. And I said, let's buy this and let's take it up north. What we should have done in retrospect is we should have bought that kayak up north, only a couple miles from our cottage. But no, instead we bought it, a couple 100 miles away, and we were going to drive it up there. And so we had to find a way to attach it to our car. And that was the hardest part of this whole project, was how to get it on the car and keep it on the car. Because when we first strapped it down to the car, it literally, the yellow kayak would come over the top of the car, and you could see it as I was driving in front of me. I could see it hanging over the top of the car. So the whole way up, I'm seeing this yellow kayak sort of leading the way. And we definitely were keeping an eye on the back so it wasn't sliding around on the car. And at one point, even before we got on the highway, we had to stop and tie it down again. So we were like, oh boy, this is now like on our minds totally. We got to keep the kayak to get up north. And so what we did was we were focusing on that yellow kayak, like with all our attention, as all of us in the car as we were driving up north. The funniest thing happened along the way. I kid you not. It must have been like the biggest yellow kayak sale on earth that day that I somehow missed everybody talking about. And we just happened to buy a yellow kayak on that day, because that day we were driving up north. I can't tell you how many times we would say, or somebody in the car would say, hey, there's another yellow kayak. I'm not just saying a kayak. There's another yellow kayak. Hey, there's another yellow kayak. It became a joke almost after a while. We were laughing. Look at all these yellow kayaks on the road. My point is that our brain was so focused on this yellow kayak heading up north for the 3-hour trip or whatever it was that day, that our brains were totally keeping an eye out, high alert for any other yellow kayaks, because that's what we put in our brain. That's what we programmed. Just like if you program something on Google, it will search for those things and pop up things similar to what you searched. That's what it was doing. Not only were we seeing some other kayaks, but mostly we were seeing yellow kayaks that day on the road. And never since then have we ever seen as many yellow kayaks on one trip going up north. And so that's what we now call the yellow kayak syndrome. Whenever we say we're focusing on something, all of a sudden we start seeing things that remind us of that, or things that, that connect with that. We'll say, oh, there's the yellow kayak syndrome. That's what that is. And so people tend to do this. Like they'll say, I'm having a really bad day. And the next thing you know, they're like, see, I told you it's a bad day. This happened and this happened and this happened. It might be because they programmed in their mind bad day. Because here's the second example I want to share with you. I call this the gas station story, another true story. And I share this with my students as well. When I was a young teacher, I remember I was stopping at a gas station one morning before work. I usually try to get gas before, because in the morning I don't want to have to stop on my way to work. It's hard enough to get up and get going that I don't want to have to make a stop, but I did. And so I stopped to get gas that day because I had to. And sure enough, this was back in the days when you could go in and pay. You didn't always have to pay right at. I guess you can still do it, but it's kind of rare now. But, it was more common to go in and pay for your gas. I went in, I was waiting in line to pay for my gas so I could go out and put, $5 or $10 in my car to get to work. And in front of me, there was a line, and so I'm waiting, and there's this one woman in front of me, and she's very fidgety, and you could tell she was sort of getting irritated by the slowness of the line. And finally, as she got up to the counter, she throws down some money on the counter, and she says, I want a pack of smokes, and she pointed at some cigarettes. They put them on the counter, and she counted out her change, and she gave him some more change because she didn't have enough on the counter. And finally, the guy takes the money, and she swipes up her cigarettes, and as she's walking out, she throws out to all of us in line. I don't know if it was to us, to herself, or to whatever, but she goes, you can already tell it's going to be one of those days. And I would tell my students that I guarantee you this woman, as she was driving to work, probably found things that irritated her more throughout the day, right? Or through her drive to get to work. And then when she gets to work, I'm sure there's things that she's going to find throughout the day now that's going to really irritate her at work, because she's already told herself it's going to be one of those days. She's already programmed her thinking to find those examples, right? And so I tell my students, you got to be careful what you program into your mind. And I tell them, you may think this doesn't apply to you, but it does, because as a teacher, I usually see 3 types of students enter my classroom every year at the beginning of the year for the first couple days of school at least, maybe the first week, but then I don't see those 3 as much. I see one more group more than the others. But I usually see 3 groups of kids walk into my classroom the first few days of school. And I'm going to tell you what they are, and I'm going to show them to you. So the first student that I'm going to show you the example of, I would tell my students, represents the first group of students of the 3 groups I see. And I would walk out the door just in my normal fashion, shut the door, wait a second, and I'd swing the door open, and I would right away make some sounds like, ugh. Oh boy, this must be my classroom. I'd slam the door and I'd stomp my feet over, and I'd just start walking, and somebody'd laugh in the room because it's funny. The kids are laughing because I'm overacting it, obviously. And I would say, teacher, these kids are laughing at me. Stop laughing at me. And, man, I hate this class. You can already tell people are going to be making fun of me. I hate it. And I'd slam myself in an open chair that I'd find, and I'd say, quit looking at me, because everybody's looking at me because I'm a teacher, obviously. But in this case, I'm acting as the kid. And I'd go, quit looking at me. Teacher, they're looking at me. Tell them to quit looking at me, right? Oh man. And I'd say, boy, let's just do this. All right, go ahead, educate me. And I'd look at the kids and I say, how can I work with that? That kid's already decided that it's going to be a bad day. It's going to be a bad year. How can I come in and get them to change that attitude? They've already come in determined that it's going to be a bad day, and they're already finding examples around them, like that lady at the gas station. I said, let me show you the second example of the group of students that I see come in. And I said, and this one worries me more than the first one. And I walk out the door. I come back in, I open the door, and I just stand there and take a heavy sigh. Oh boy, here we go. All right, let's do this. And I walk in super slow, no energy, sagging, head down. Oh boy, it's so early. I'm used to sleeping in. This is hard getting up. I don't want to do this. And I sit down at a table, and I put my elbow on the table, and I put my chin on my hand, and I go, oh boy, it's like it's resting. It's holding my head up. My head is so heavy, and I'm like, oh boy, here we go. And I sit there and I go, this is the first 10 minutes of the day. I said, let's fast forward to 20 minutes to 30 minutes into the day. And now I have my head laying on my arm that's on my desk like a pillow. And I'm like, this is so boring. I'm so bored. And then I say, now let's fast forward to 2 hours into the day. And I'll actually literally crawl up onto my table, sometimes in the fetal position, and I'll be sleeping and snoring. And the kids start laughing. And I'll jump back down off the chair, and I'll sit down and I'll say, what do I do with that? Somebody comes in and already they're bored. I could be up there juggling fire trying to make the lessons exciting, and they're still going to be going, I'm bored. This is boring. My life's boring. I'm so bored. I worry about them more than I do about the kids that are upset, because sometimes they just sit there and they just are sleeping through their lives, and I don't want to see that happen this year. I worry about them. Let me show you the third group of students. Here's an example. I walk out the door. I come back in. Right away, you can see I'm full of energy. And I'm like, oh boy, this is it. This is my new classroom. This is going to be cool. It's a new year. I love New Year's. It's going to be fun. And I start to walk over towards the chair that I've been, using for the other 2 examples. And I'll pass students as I do. I'll look and say something like, oh, I like your shirt. That's a cool shirt. I wish I had one like that. That's nice. Where'd you get that? Man, that's cool. Or, oh man, I like your hair. You have really nice hair. All right, here we go. I sit down next to the gang. How you doing? How you doing? I say hi to everybody at my little table. I'm like, hi. Okay. Oh, he's going to start. I can't wait. This is going to be fun. And I'm like sitting on the edge of my seat. I say to the students, oh man, I love students like this. I just love their energy. Right away, they're just telling me they're going to be somebody that's going to buy in, and they're going to come in every day looking for things to get excited and happy about. And you know what? That's exactly what I want for each of you. I want each of you to come in with that same energy, that same excitement, because if you do, I guarantee you're going to find more things to get excited and happy about. It's like that yellow kayak, right? You're going to see more of those yellow kayaks. You're going to come in finding more things to get excited and happy about. And I'm going to do everything I can to help you. I promise. I've got some things set up, but you got to come in with that attitude. And if you do, I promise you it's going to make a difference this year. It might even lead up to your best year ever if you can combine all three words. But this is the second word, attitude. You got to come in each day looking for something to get excited and happy about. Quick side note. I got to tell you, one year my students, after about 2 weeks of school, 3 weeks of school, somewhere where we were all in that comfort zone now and they could tell things were really going like I said they'd be going. It was starting to really click. We're starting to become a winning team. And my students at recess were talking to me and they were saying, Mr. Cecil, remember when you showed us the 3 students that came in at the beginning of the year? I said, yeah, I remember that. And they said, guess what? We were talking and we were saying we know 3 types of teachers that we've seen in our schooling. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I kid you not. They went through and explained how they have some teachers that come in angry. They said they would come in sometimes, slam the door and say, I've had a bad day or whatever. Like, okay, let's just get going. Guys, you're noisy. Let's stop this right away. Come on. We got a lot to do today. Let's just get to it. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Almost like yelling at them, and they didn't even do anything yet. They just arrived. They said they had teachers like that. And I said, oh my gosh, that would be terrible. They said, Mr. Cecil, we also had teachers that would come in and all they would do all day is sit at their desk. And they would sit there and they'd go, okay, today we're going to do this. Let's open your math books to page 37 and we're going to do this equation and it's going to be hard, but you can get it if you stick with it. And they would talk like that all day, no energy. I'd be like, oh my goodness, really? And then they say, Mr. Cecil, then there's teachers that come in every day and they do what you do. You come in and you like right away, you have energy and you're like smiling and you're saying hello and then you're telling us things that we're going to be excited about that day. And it's so different. And so, yeah, we just want you to be aware of that. And I said, I'm going to share that out anytime I get a chance with other teachers because maybe we're not aware of that. But thank you. And I'm sorry you've experienced that, but I'm glad you don't feel you're experiencing that this year. And I guarantee you, I'm going to do everything I can to keep that going. So I thought that was interesting that they thought that was important as well. So what I try to do is I'm trying to get kids that, again, have struggled in the past because they come in with a bad attitude. They think it's going to be another repeat of that this is a new beginning. This is a new start for them and for all of us. But it's also a year that they have to work to make it happen too by showing up on time, attendance, and attitude. The first part of attitude, I'll talk about the other ones in future episodes. But they've got to come in and give their part too. But if they do, it's going to be better for them. It's going to make their lives more interesting and more fun and make the year go by faster because they're just so into it. And that time flies when you're having a good time. I think there's some truth to that. Last thing I want to do is I want to explain 2 more things that I've done to keep myself positive. Number 1 is that I would keep a positive Far Side cartoon on my computer. I taped it to my computer on my laptop, and every time I opened it, it reminded me of how important my job is as the teacher, as the leader of the team, to model the way. But I love this Far Side cartoon, and it has a picture of a dude, some guy carrying a wheelbarrow full of, I don't know, rocks or something, and all around him is fire, and there's like I guess he's at work, it looks like, because there's like a guy watching him with a pitchfork, the Satan, devil, whatever, and he's the supervisor. And you could tell this guy's working, but there's other people with their heads down, dragging, and they look depressed, and who wouldn't be in hell, right? And so they're definitely living the nightmare, and fire's all around them. But this guy, as he's pushing the wheelbarrow, he's whistling. You can see the whistle little marks on the cartoon that represent music coming out of his mouth. And the one supervisor says to the other supervisor as he's passing them by, we just can't seem to get to this guy, is the caption. We just can't seem to get to this guy. That means nothing seems to get him down. He stays positive. And I think of that as the challenges, the things that might get you down. I'm not going to let anything get me down. I'm going to be that guy pushing the wheelbarrow in my classroom and in my school every day on that living billboard, right? That living, breathing billboard to represent teachers, that I'm going to be the guy whistling and saying, no, nothing's going to get me down, man. I'm on a mission. I'm going to get it done. So I thought I'd share that with you. You could probably download that. I checked it out again this morning to see if it's there. I might even put it on my resource page on my website, bestyearever.net, if you want to check that out. And also my playbook, because this entire speech, again, is in my playbook, Best Year Ever, Winning Strategies to Thrive in Today's Classroom. You could pick up that copy on Amazon or my website. But seriously, I'm not trying to push selling, buying it just to, I'm trying to sell books. But it's something you can have that you can refer to and use it as a playbook like I was able to do. And then the second cartoon I really want to explain real quickly is another Far Side, hell, whatever cartoon. And in this one, you have the same picture. It's like hell, everybody's sitting in hell, and there's supervisors with the pitchfork standing over them. You see fire everywhere, but there's 2 guys sitting on a bench. It's almost like it's their break time, and they look really depressed. And the one guy leans over to the other guy, and the caption just simply says, I hate this place. And as funny as that is, it's not funny in the workplace when you surround yourself with people that are bringing you down. I hate this place. Same with students in the classroom. I hate this. I hate this. So it's worth investing time to keep yourself safe from that happening and from your students, that they're safe from having other students bring them down with that attitude going on in your classroom. So this is really, really big in many, many different ways. And so I believe that your job is you need to model the way, because think about it. Number one, these kids in your room, they're looking to you as an adult, right? They see their parents. How do they handle good times? How do they handle bad times? How do they handle stress? How do they handle being surprised? How do they handle whatever? They're watching them like little caterpillars waiting to become butterflies someday, right? And they're doing that. They see you more during their waking hours than they do their own parents. Every day they see them more because they're awake more at school than they are at home, and they're off doing other things or whatever. And so you play that same influence. You have to model the way to show them this is how you handle yourself in life, in the workplace, wherever. You come in with the right attitude. You come in with a positive attitude. You come in finding things that you have to deal with and dealing with them in a positive way. Even if inside you're churning on them a little bit, you still try to find a positive way to deal with it so you can get through it and keep going. You don't let them just have a meltdown and break, because they're watching you. Even the high school kids, they're like, what's it going to be like? What's it going to be like? They're trying to play it off. They're trying to be cool, but they're watching you to see, how do adults handle this? And so they're watching you. And so I want you to make sure you're aware of that, not just fellow teachers, but also your students. And so you really are a living, breathing billboard, walking, talking billboard every day in school, not just to the students you teach, but to the adults as well. And so you got to come in as a leader and model the way. All right. And the same is again, it helps to set the tone in the classroom. If you come in every day with this attitude that you're going to make a difference, that you're going to be positive, then it's really going to help a lot. So I want you to think about that as well. So with that time I have left, what I want to do is I want to go over some of the strategies, I guess, you could use in your classroom to help set this habit of coming in every day, looking for things to get excited and happy about with your students and for yourself, so that it would make the day go better. So it helps to set that habit so that it becomes natural. They come in and do it naturally. But the first thing is I would come in early every day, even like a half hour earlier than maybe most people would come in. And I would have the place to myself just to kind of get my room organized. I'd play my music loud because that would get me in a good mood. It was like a warm up for an athlete getting ready for the big game, right? Get myself excited. Or I'd have a second cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee, but if I did, I would. But that's what I'm saying to you. You could do that, anything that would help get you awake and ready to go. And my room's ready, so I'm organized. Everything looks good. I went to the copy machine before anybody else came in. I'm in a line. Somebody turns around and says, I hate this place. Like the guy in the cartoon, right? It's already bringing me down, or people complaining about whatever. And so I want to be away from all that. I want to be back in my room ready to go. So by the time the bell rings, the kids are coming in, and there I am at the door ready to go, totally focused on them. And before they even walk in the room, I'm out in the hallway giving them knuckles as they walk in. Morning, good morning, how you doing? Welcome. Hey, I like your hair. Oh, you said a new backpack? All right, man, what'd you do last night? Or hey, you got a uniform on. Are you playing on a team? Tell me about your team. So they make some kind of connection, and they walk in already on a positive. Then I come in and I do what I mentioned earlier in my podcast, is that I would come in and say, hey, welcome to day whatever of your best year ever. Hopefully you're still working on your attendance, attitude, and effort to make that happen. And so far this year, you guys have been doing it. So keep it going today. We got a great day ahead. And then I jump into the actual agenda for the day, and I would pull out one or two things from the agenda that I think they would really get excited or happy about, and that they'd start to focus on, going, oh, we got that to look forward to today. So I'm trying to get them, their mindsets going. After we do that, I would then do something that I did every day with them, is I would have a positive quote up on my board. And I would say, let's read the quote. And then what I want you to do is think about what it means to you in your life. I'd give them like 30 seconds, a minute to do that. And I'd say, now in your group, share that out. What does that quote mean to you? How does it apply to your life and making it a better life, to making it your best year ever? Go ahead and talk about it. And they would talk about it. And I'd say, all right, anybody want to share out? They would share out a few people. And I'd say, great. Now I want you to write that down in your agenda book, because that's what we did in our agenda book every day. They would write out the quote and then a few lines of what they thought it meant while I was doing lunch count or, attendance, things that I had to take care of for record keeping. So there's not that dead space. They're doing something positive. I'm doing something positive. And then I would share out what I thought the quote meant as well if I hadn't done that yet. And I'd say, great. Now, last thing I'm going to have you do before we get started this morning is I want you to list 3 things you're excited and happy about. We would do this every single day. 3 things you're excited and happy about. And I'd say try not to repeat the same things over and over again. Try to build a bank account of all these different things you're excited and happy about. So push yourself to think of things. And it could be little things, but anything. It could be something that's already happened or that's going to happen or something that's happening right now. 3 things you're excited and happy about. Write those down and then share them out in your group. After about a minute, I'd have them share them out. And then we pull sticks and I say, 3 people are going to get to share theirs out loud if they want. If not, we'll keep going until we get 3 people to do it. And then we would do that and then we'd start our day. These were all great ways to get my kids to start thinking about positive things that they could, be looking forward to and come in already to try to change their mindset. And then the last thing I think I would say sometimes too is if I notice some kids might be struggling or a kid or whatever, and I didn't want to point them out, I would say, by the way, guys, don't forget, we've talked about this before. If you've had something bad happen this morning that got you off in a bad mood, mom yelled at you because you didn't make your bed, or dad's upset about something, and your mom and dad were upset or something, somebody said something mean in the hallway, let it go. Or if you can't let it go, put it in your locker mentally. Just say it's out there in the hallway in my locker and I'll pick it up when I go home like a backpack and I'll put it on and I'll deal with it then. But don't let it disrupt your day like that woman at the gas station did for the rest of her day. Let it go and focus on all the good things going on in here today. So that was one other thing that I would do. I had a teacher that I had mentioned in my Best Year Ever book, the playbook, which I hope you'll get because it has all these ideas in there. And by the way, it also has a list of all the quotes that you could use throughout the year in the appendix. So that's another reason to get the playbook. It has all these amazing quotes that you can use. You don't have to search them down each day, but those are in there as well. But I remember in my book on one page I had talked about saying a pledge, a positive pledge each morning. Like you say the Pledge of Allegiance, which we would do in our building, and then we could say our Best Year Ever pledge maybe once a week or so or whatever, just to kind of every once in a while to keep that in mind of what we're trying to do. And I remember I had a teacher that worked next door to me. Her name's Denise Karen. She was like probably one of the most amazing teachers I've ever known, most positive teachers. Her kids loved her. They adored her, and they should, because she gave everything she had. She was the most positive person they were walking into every single day. And I remember she came up to me once and she said, Bill, I took your pledge idea and I wrote I Can Pledge with my students. We wrote it together and we posted it in the room and we say it once a week. This was their pledge. I just wanted to give you a quick example of that. It says, I can choose to be happy. I can choose to see the world as a world of good and opportunity. I can create the world I want to see. I can be as smart as I choose to be. I can have a good attendance record. I can give effort consistently. I can make mistakes and grow from them. I can set and achieve goals this year. I can focus on what I'm to become or do. I can tackle my cannots. I can have my best year ever. I can make it happen. And they would read that once a week as a group, but they would just kind of say it out loud like their team pledge, that they were all working together to do that. So there's another idea that's available. But do something in your classroom to definitely allow you to model the way every day, to show them that, not just to them, but to other teachers. You're the walking, talking, living, breathing billboard that, hey, I come in every day to give my best. I'm looking for things to get excited and happy about, and I usually find those and I celebrate those, and I'm going to point those out to you when we do them as a team, and I want you to recognize them as well, and I want you to do that for me. Point out things that you're excited and happy about. So we start to all model the way, because I want my students to become a team of leaders as well. So I've thrown a lot at you, but I want to stop there today. But I definitely hope this is only part 1 of Attitude. I hope you'll tune in to episode 11 for the second part of Attitude, because I think it's even more powerful than this one in some ways, to help your kids succeed in the future and to help everyone have their best year ever. So until then, again, I want to thank you for giving me your time. I want to thank you for being the heroes you are, and for the just to have the grit and the mindset to take on the challenges that you're facing, and to keep striving to make a difference every day, because you do. So remember, best year ever. You have the power to make it happen.